Okay, I'm going to show you how to optimize a very large image so that it works better in your website. If you try to upload an image directly from iStock or Shutterstock or even from your camera, it's going to be way too big for the internet dimensionally and in file size. And it's going to really slow your website down and give you a bad score. So that's a bad experience for the user who's trying to visit your site. And also, Google frowns on that and can ding your site if it's slow. So this is an easy fix to speed up your website. It's one of the basic things and one of the most common reasons websites are so slow. So here's a typical image that comes out of a camera. It still has the file name from my Nikon camera. We're going to talk about changing that as well for SEO purposes. As you can see here, the width is 3,872 pixels and the height is 2,592 pixels and the resolution is 300 pixels. These dimensions, the width and the height, are just way too big. They're way too big for anything you need on the internet. If you have a high quality image, which you should if you're purchasing one, it should be super high quality, nice and sharp and crisp. Or if you took it yourself, it should be sharp, crisp. This is just too big. And how do I know that? How do you know how many pixels your image should be? Well, if you're thinking of using an image for the full width of your website, depending on the size of the browser, the image is going to basically fill the full width of the browser. You want to go to about 1,800 pixels wide. And notice, because this lock is on, the height changed also to 1,205 pixels. Now 1,800 pixels in width is plenty large for any regular monitor. Even a Retina screen is going to display this image in beautiful sharpness and clarity. So right there, we've basically cut the size, the dimensional size of the image in half. And I'm going to go ahead and say, okay. So it appears smaller here, but actually we're at 50% view. So I'm going to go ahead and put this up to 100% view. And look at how sharp that is. Look at how big it is. And I do have a Retina screen. And look at how that would fill up a browser window and still be in completely good shape. So this is definitely what you want to do. Once you get the image to the size that you want, and by the way, most of the time, if you're using an image for a hero area, meaning the very top of the home page or even the top of a secondary page, you probably don't need all this height. So with the crop tool, you may potentially even want to do some cropping so that it doesn't have to adjust itself for this extra large image that doesn't necessarily need to be that way. So that's super easy with the crop tool. And right there, you've cut out more information, because everything in an image is information, right? So when you cut more information out of an image, that makes the file size going to be all that much smaller. Now, the next step, this is not obvious anymore. I'm not sure if they removed it yet, but it used to be under File, and there was something called Save for Web. It's not here anymore, and I'm not exactly sure why and what they're replacing it with. I'm going to look that up. So this is a trick. Control, Shift, Alt, Save on the PC. Control, Shift, Alt, Save, and then I think that would make it on the Mac, Command, Alt, Shift, Save. Okay, so you're going to hold those three keys down and then click the save button when you do it. And you come up with this window that says Save for Web. And here you can see the optimized version. Here's the original version. Here's the optimized. So this is going to adjust appearance depending on the settings we change over here. With 2 up, you can actually see This is the original on top, and this is the one that's going to be based on our settings down here. So you want to make sure for photos you're always on JPEG, not PNG. PNG is really for other types of graphics like logos and illustrations, that kind of thing. Photos turn out absolutely massive as PNGs, and the quality honestly isn't quite as good. So always make sure a photo is in JPEG. Now don't worry about these presets here, low, medium, high. You can get the same thing by playing around with this number here. And just for showing you the difference, I'm going to take it all the way down. And even still, at this point, you see some degradation in the quality, but let's zoom in on it. That's where we're going to really be able to tell the difference. So here's the original, and here you can see how things start to become pixelated and extra little things start to show up. That's called artifacting. So it starts to be really degraded. Now I've taken it all the way down to a quality level of 0. You can slide it up until you get a quality that you feel good about. You start to see it change as I go up and up and up. At some point, you start to not see the change so much. And that's kind of that threshold you want to get to when you're setting the quality level of the JPEG. Keep in mind that nobody's going to be zooming in on your photos on your website, but we're doing it so that we can see at what point we feel we can get down. This is, by the way, reducing file size. When we're reducing quality level, we're removing information. We're removing more of that file size issue. So at 60, I can see some of this, pixelating starting to happen. I'm even going to zoom in more and, some of this artifacting going on. But again, we're zoomed in right now at, where'd it go? 400%. No one is going to see it that big. So honestly, if I take this back to 100%, for all intents and purposes, a quality of about 60, and that's not really, I don't know if it's a percentage or what, it's just a number, but the numbers are 0 to 100. At a quality of 60, this image looks great. This is at full size, 100%. So I would say let's go with this. And there are a couple other things here. You can set it up as progressive. And down here, you'll see the number of the actual file size you're going to export. Right now, with the progressive selected and the quality setting that we have, your JPEG is now going to export at 226.7K approximately. If I turn off progressive and then optimize is selected, it's now 219.7K. So optimized usually is the way to go. I will tell you that's not always true, but I think for the extra large images like this, it is true. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And we don't want to overwrite our original image. And also, we want to name it something that's going to be more SEO friendly because Google does check out file names. So rather than this name that means nothing to anybody, let's go ahead and call it Yellow Flowers. If this was for your business, you would want to name it something that, is a little more, like I said, SEO friendly to your business, but still pertains to the image itself. You don't want to name it like just your business name. You want to name it what it is. And then if you can work in something that's SEO friendly for the page you're on, like if it's about you, Yellow Flowers for Kathy Cervatka, something like that, that might work better. So now we have two files. You can see the original, which was the extra large one, dimensions. Oops, I can't point at that, but 3,872 by 2,592. And the size of the file was 3.23 megabytes. Way, way, way too big. You don't ever want anything in the megabytes uploaded to your website if you can absolutely help it. I would never, in fact, there's really no excuse to be that high for anything at any time. So that's the original out of the camera, but now that we've resized it, we also cropped it a little because we know we just don't need that much height. Sometimes you need the height, you didn't have to crop it, but I have found most of these little hero areas don't need to be as tall. So how did I know how short to make it? I just experience, I just guessed. It's not a science where this one's 881 pixels tall. That's probably going to be fine. If we go into inserting it in the file and it looks like it's not sizing quite right, you can go back to your Photoshop file. You can undo the image size and you can leave it the way it was. By the way, history is your best friend and undo is my best friend. But the new file is now 220 kilobytes. Big savings with equitable quality for the web. But that's not it. So that's really good. But we have one more step because this is still going to come up as being too large. It's not too large for Google, but what gets recognized is that it could be compressed more. And so that becomes a ding because it'll say you have images that can be compressed more to save even more space, so to speak, to make them smaller, to make the loading of the page faster. So I use this tool. This is free on the web, tinypng.com. They have a plugin as well, but I don't use their plugin, which is kind of funny. I prefer to compress them here on the website and then upload them because also they'll just upload quicker as well. And once I get them into the website, I would have yet another compression tool in place, such as Smush, to compress it even a little more if it can. Get to a point where it's crunched and you can't do any more. And we also don't want the quality to degrade. Now, I will tell you this tool, it's called TinyPNG. It works best with PNG files, but it also does JPEGs. And I just have found every once in a while, it doesn't do such a great job with JPEGs, but 9 times out of 10, it's perfect. So I'm going to go ahead. It's real easy, right? You can just drop it right there. So I'm going to take the optimized image and I'm going to click and drag it onto the web page where it says drop your file. And it took it from 225 kilobytes down to 178 kilobytes. And now we just download it. I'm going to go ahead and show it in the folder. This is the download folder. And just so you can see, I'm going to go ahead and rename the optimized image that came out of Photoshop, PSD, just so you can see the difference. Normally, I would go ahead and overwrite this one, but just for showing you, I'm going to go ahead and grab the one that got downloaded from TinyPNG and bring it over here to be in my folder. So now I have the original from the camera. I have the one that I optimized out of Photoshop, which is 220 kilobytes. And now I have the even more compressed one at 174 kilobytes. And let's go ahead and take a look. Okay, here's the original. I'm in a program called IrfanView, which I'm going to tell you about soon as well, because if you don't have Photoshop, we can do some of this in IrfanView pretty decently. This is the original image, and we're at 51% view, so this is the massive image. This is the one cropped and brought out of Photoshop. So this is at 142% view, so I'm going to take it down to this is 97%. It's around 100%. So that's really still very good quality. And then I'm going to show you, sorry, gotta pop it down again here. This is the even more compressed version, and it looks good. Even again, if I zoom in, like what if somebody had their browser open this wide, and my screen is super wide. I tell you, most people will not be doing this, but it still looks fabulous. It still looks really good at that size. So this is the image you want to then go ahead and upload and use.